you don't have a goal, you suffer, and then you get cruel and bitter and resentful, and then you start to actively try to make the world a worse place.
Trying new stuff can be painful, can be comfort zone breaking. It should be. It's new, it's variety, it's different. You're gonna stumble, you're gonna fail, you might get embarrassed. That's part of the process.
Play the long game. Aim for legendary.
I wake up every morning. Espresso keep me going. I wake up every morning.
Rise and shine, it's espresso time. So let's start your day off right together. Grab your coffee and sip on today's message from Jordan Peterson. Also, if you want to learn how to have more confidence, check out my 254 Confidence series. It's free. The link to join is in the description below.
If you're going to speak effectively, you have to know way more than you're talking about. The suffering is pain, and the suffering is anxiety and uncertainty, and the suffering is hopelessness. But the consequence of all that is that you get bitter. And when you get bitter, you get mean and you get cruel and you start to hurt yourself and other people. So it's not only that if you don't have a goal, you suffer. It's that if you don't have a goal, you suffer, and then you get cruel and bitter and resentful, and then you start to actively try to make the world a worse place. And so because you can't suffer pointlessly without becoming bitter, and you can't become bitter without becoming cruel. So you need an aim. The question, of course, is what you should aim. Yeah, a better aim, that's for sure. So then the question is, what should your aim be? It's not easy to ask people to say, well, it's easy to ask them, what do you want in your life? It's a very hard question to answer because it's too vague and grand. Eh? So we help, in the Future Authoring Program, we help people break that down. It's okay, so here's the situation. So you put yourself in the right frame of mind. So what's the right frame of mind? It's like rule 2 in this book. Treat yourself like you're someone responsible for helping. You're someone that you are responsible for helping. So what that means is you have to start from the presupposition that despite all your flaws and insufficiencies, that it's worth having you around and that it would be okay if things were better for you. So you need to take care of yourself like you're taking care of someone you care for. So there's a bit of a detachment in that. And then the next thing is, okay, so now look 3 to 5 years down the road. Okay, you get to have what you need and want, assuming you're being reasonable and that you actually want it, which means you're willing to make the sacrifices that would make it possible.
What do you mean by reasonable?
Well, that's the next thing. Well, within your grasp, that would be something.
What if something is out of your grasp, but you still push hard enough?
Well, then you need an incremental plan, right? You need to break that goal down into steps.
Not some crazy goal within a year that's like you haven't even done the work to master a skill yet. Yeah, I got it.
Well, that's it. And you can have a high-end goal, and more power to you if you do. But you need it.
Yeah.
Well, you need a pathway to it.
Absolutely.
You know, if it's 10 stories up above you, you need a staircase to get there, right? And so you have to build the staircase too.
Right.
I think too many people settle too early on in life for the wrong aim. People settle for the wrong business, people settle for the wrong career, people settle for the wrong relationship because they're in such a rush to get to their aim that they end up with a life of suffering. If you don't know your aim yet, that's okay. It's normal. And maybe you found it but lost it. That can happen too. There may be many times in your life where you don't know your aim. The solution is to taste, is to test, is to try, is to explore until you find it. Because otherwise you live a life filled with regret, knowing that you are capable of more, but you settled for less. So when I was 18, I went to Paris, and it was my first time going to Paris, and I was super excited to go out and travel, and it was a formative experience that ultimately changed my life. One day, sitting outside the Notre Dame Cathedral, and I had my map open, and I'm looking for where I'm gonna go next. And this girl comes up to me and in perfect French asking for directions. And I thought she was cute, and I wanted to ask her out, but I was too afraid. I was embarrassed. I was afraid I might get rejected. I was afraid I didn't have the perfect words. French was my second language, and I didn't want to embarrass myself. And so I just told her where she needed to go, and she left. And I felt so bad about that moment that I took a picture just outside the cathedral, and I went home and processed the picture, and then I blew it up and put it on my wall. And I had that as a daily reminder for myself that I did not want to live with regret, that I would rather know and fail than not know. And looking at that picture every day as I walk into my basement apartment in downtown Toronto, that helped me start my first business. When I was 19, 1 year later, after a year of looking at this picture, I had an opportunity to join a startup company, have 30% of the equity, make $300 a month, or get 6 figures starting salary, travel around the world at the investment banking job that I thought I wanted, that all my friends wanted, that we've been studying and preparing for. And I had that picture in the back of my mind. I had that picture calling to me, say, why am I looking at this picture every day? It's because I don't want to live with regret, because I would rather know and fail than not know. And so I said, you know what? I can always go and get another banking job. It may not be the same job, it may not be as good pay, it may not be the travel around the world like this one was offering, but I can get another job. This startup thing, I didn't know if I'd ever get another shot at it. I didn't know once I got on the corporate path if I'd ever be able to get off it. And I felt like I would regret, ultimately, I felt like I would regret it if I didn't at least take a shot. And the most likely scenario was failure. Most entrepreneurs don't make it. And so even knowing that the most likely outcome was failure, I had to go off and do it just to know, because I was looking at that picture every day and reminding myself that I would rather know and fail than not know. And that's what led me down the entrepreneurial path. Now, I didn't know it was going to work out. I didn't think it was going to work out. And we struggled and it sucked at the beginning. And I was making no money and I felt worthless as a human being in the early days of my business. But you have to taste it. You have to explore it. You have to try it. You'll have moments in your life where you have absolute clarity, absolute focus. Like, this is what I am meant to do right now. And when you find that, then you have to push hard, right? That's me right now with YouTube and starting on Instagram, right? That's me right now. This is a moment. In 10 years, YouTube may not even be around. Maybe it's going to be virtual reality Evan coming into your living room, right? 10 years will be a whole different ballgame. But now I have a moment. When people ask me, where is it going? I don't know. I'm focused right now because this is my time. Where too many people are sitting on the sidelines when it's their time. But then when your time is over, when that window of opportunity closes, then what? Then you're back to not knowing what to do. And that's when you need to get back on the horse and you explore and you taste and you test and you try. And it's messy and most things won't work out. And that's okay, because that's the process. The answer isn't to rush into finding a new aim, because that's the recipe for unhappiness. That is the recipe for suffering. That is what most of America, I think, has done. I think most of America wakes up and drives to a job that they hate because they settled way too early in life without tasting, testing, trying enough to see what their actual true aim is. Now I'm going to give you a 3-step process you can follow to find your aim and build the life that you want off of it. Step number 1, what's one new thing that you can explore this week? Just one new thing you haven't tried before, you haven't done it before, for whatever reason. You have this idea that's been planted, like, I want to try this. What is that one new thing? You won't know until you try it. That list of ideas isn't going to get any shorter, right? The way to make those ideas shorter is to go off and try it. You won't know if sushi is good until you take a bite and eat it. You can't think your way through tasting sushi or trying a banana or trying that new salted caramel popcorn thing that we got here in New York the other day. That's really good. That's sitting over there, but I can't eat it right now because I'm on my keto diet on Sundays. Anyway, what's one thing that you can pick right now that you want to just explore sometime this week that's new, that's different, that's outside your usual, that's not part of your comfort zone? Pick one thing. Step 2 is, how will you eliminate expectations? Part of the problem in chasing after new ideas is we have expectations of it being great. Things won't be great. You will suck at the beginning. Don't expect it to be amazing at the beginning, because otherwise you put too much pressure on it being perfect, and chances are it won't be perfect. If you go on a first date expecting to marry the person that you're meeting, you're going to sabotage the whole thing. The acid test should be, do I want to go back for a second date? Right? Was it interesting? Did I have fun? Do I want to go back for a second date? Same thing with trying something new. When I first started learning salsa dancing, I'm tall, I don't speak Spanish, I take big steps, I knew zero dancing growing up. On paper, everything looked really bad against me. I walked in my first class and I wasn't very good. I didn't pick it up instantly, but I just liked it. I just enjoyed it. And so fast forward, a decade plus later, I own the largest dance school for salsa, maybe in North America. It's crazy. You can't judge it. You have to let go of expectations. So that new thing that you're going to try out, how are you going to remind yourself that you're going to let go of expectations of it being amazing the first time through? And step number 3 is, what will your regrets be if you settle too soon? Trying new stuff can be painful, can be comfort zone breaking. It should be. It's new, it's variety, it's different. You're going to stumble, you're going to fail, you might get embarrassed. That's part of the process. Otherwise, you photocopy your life and it's just the same day over and over and over and over again, and you hate your life. We crave variety, you need it. But it's painful to go off and do new things because you risk judgment, embarrassment, failure. But on the other end of that is regret. If you don't go off and do the thing, you will regret it for the rest of your life. Do you want this current life that you're living right now for the rest of your life? Yes? Amazing. You want more? You have to go chase it down. And you remind yourself, at least I do for me, remind myself, if I don't go off and try this thing, this is what gets me to the pain and the nervousness and the fears. This fear of trying this new thing. If I don't do this new thing, I'm going to regret for the rest of my life. I'll put this pressure for my entire life. This could be the thing that changes the whole game for me. But I was too afraid. I backed down, and so I played small the rest of my life. So what will your regret be if you don't go off and try that new thing this week? Now, I've got a really special bonus clip that I think you're going to enjoy. But before that, question of the day, I want to know, what is the one new thing that you are going to try this week? Let me know. Put it in the comments below.
Nothing fails like success. You're successful. Maybe it's in your health. Maybe it's in your finances. Maybe it's in your career. Maybe it's in your family life. Maybe it's in the way that you show up in the world. Awesome. You're in a really vulnerable place right now. It is one thing to be successful. It is another thing to sustain success over the coming decades. Is that not a powerful idea? I mean, let's go to the entertainment industry. It's very hard to be a one-hit wonder. Let's not knock a one-hit wonder. But it's even harder to become an iconic rock band or hip-hop band. Let's go to the arts. It is very hard to come up with your Sistine Chapel. Got it. It is even harder to become a Michelangelo. So are you playing the short game or are you playing the long game? This is rule number 2, or lesson number 2 that life has taught me. Play the long game. Aim for legendary. Don't just say, I want to be world class in my dominant pursuit for a little window of time. Say, I want to have the guts and the grit and the acumen and the mindset and the capability and the commitment to create enduring success. And that's why I say nothing fails like success. You look at the restaurant that is hot in your neighborhood right now. They're on the path to obsolescence if they're not really careful. Sure, they went from a little neighborhood shop that made beautiful pasta, that had great service, that had the owner on the floor, shaking your hand, getting to know your name. Then they got written up in the magazines, and then they got interviewed, and then word of mouth spread like wildfire. And what happened? They became arrogant. You see, success can be so toxic. And it happens, it is such a pull on every human being. It just plays with your mind. And you literally shift from humility to arrogance. You shift from humility to arrogance. And once the arrogance sets in a mindset, it starts to populate every other person on the team, every other person in the culture, every other person in the community. And it is a very short fall from success to irrelevance. So lesson number 2 is nothing fails like success. As you become more successful, become more humble. As you become more successful, work even harder. As you become more successful, care even more about your product. As you become more successful, learn even more. I invite you, when you are the titan of your industry, be sitting in the room with 18-year-olds beginning their game. When you are the icon of your field, be the person who is up, not at 5 o'clock anymore. Let's play at 4 o'clock, reading, listening to the podcast, writing in your journals, setting your goals, focusing on your intentions. As you become more successful, be more humble. As you become more successful, be even more punctual. As you become more successful, become even more passionate. As you become older, become even younger. Yesterday, I was walking on the street and I met this man in his 80s. He said, Robin, I finally retired. He's probably close to 90. And he is a legendary clothier in the country that I live in. And he just retired. And he started his shop, which is now an empire, in 1954. So I don't know what that is, but that is decades and decades and decades and decades. And he did not want to retire. He just retired, but he is still on fire to do amazing things. Age is just a number. Do not let an old person into your body. Nothing fails like success.
If you want to see what Jordan Peterson thinks about struggle and how to get through it, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
There's something noble about struggling up the damn hill, right? That's adventure. That's the call to proper being.